Welcome to the candidate live stream with the New Jersey Libertarian Party. I am your host, Lana Leguía, and I'm also running for District 24 State Assembly. And I am joined by Vic Kaplan, who is running for governor as a Libertarian in New Jersey. We also have Dustin Maggard, who's a writing candidate in District 8. He's working tonight. And of course, Vic Kaplan's Lieutenant Governor, Bruno Pereira, who's also teaching tonight, so he can't make it. We go live every single Thursday, at least Thursday, 6:30, and then if the candidates are available, Wednesday and Friday. We were going to go live tomorrow, Friday, but Vic, you have an event tomorrow that you're going to, so we're not going to go live tomorrow, but we'll talk about your events a little bit later. Or you know what? Let's talk about your events right now since it's
Sure.
up for discussion. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Absolutely. Let's do that. So tomorrow, October 17th, I'm going to be in Boonton at 7 o'clock at the Uzbekistan restaurant at 7 p.m. And October 18th, on Saturday, I'll be in Clifton, 1 o'clock, and the Shalal restaurant. And October 18th, the same day, at 6 o'clock on Saturday, I'll be in Fairlawn at the Shoti Bread House. In Fairlawn. And then finally, on Sunday, October 19th at 1 o'clock, I will be in Baskin Ridge at the Hills of Herat restaurant, Hills of Herat. And that's going to be in Baskin Ridge on Sunday, October 19th at 1 o'clock. So that is the schedule for the weekend.
Yeah, and I've been to quite a few of your events, and some of your events are like town halls where the other candidates are there, and audience members can ask questions, that sort of format. And some of them, which I'm assuming is happening this weekend, are a lot more intimate, where people have dinner with you and get to really know who you are and get to know you on a more personal level. And I think that's really valuable because I don't think we do that enough with our representatives. We don't really know who they are. Yeah, we read articles about them. Yeah, we visit their websites and believe everything they say, but do we really know who they are? Have you shook their hand, right? And so I really value kind of intimate meet and greets, if you will, or meetups like that. I think that's really important to have events like that.
Yes, Lana, I think, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's just making myself available for people if they would like to meet with me and ask me questions. Just want to be open with people when they like to meet me. Just letting them know that I'm available. If you're in the area, please come and meet with me. Come and meet me, and you're more than welcome to ask me any questions, anything that's on your mind. Just please feel free to let me know, and just want to make myself available to people throughout the state. And I'm planning to continue to do this right up until the election. So just another opportunity to meet the candidates, and of course you're absolutely more than welcome also to contact me through the email, through my website. So if you'd like to volunteer, again, vicnumber4liberty.com, vicnumber4liberty.com. Feel free to volunteer, or if you'd like to donate to my campaign, my website is at the bottom of the screen, which is vicnumber4liberty.com. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to meeting more people this weekend, and looking forward to answering any of the questions that the people that I will meet will have. So definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, we also have several party members that have volunteered to be kind of like pick-up points for your yard signs and flyers and postcards and things like that. So if you are somebody who wants to help by distributing flyers or door hangers, or if you just want a yard sign for your yard, or you want to kind of distribute them throughout your town, just either contact the party or contact Vic directly, and we can help you with that. So lots of things happening on the federal level. And actually the topic of, oh, by the way, if you guys have any questions today, you can put them in the comments or message me or email me, and we'll answer it. So we talk a lot about censorship that's happening right now, just in general. Censorship is a huge problem, but also privacy. I feel like the Democrats and Republicans don't talk about privacy enough and surveillance enough. And libertarians were big on this state surveillance and the right to privacy and all these things. But you were featured in a Fight Back Better article. If you want to delve into that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was. Thank you so much. The article that I wrote, I mean, it is also on my on my website. The article is regarding the National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM 7, that was signed by President Trump. And essentially, what it does is that it grants the federal government the ability to go after people who, for expressing their freedom of expression. It gets very vague. It mentions anti-Americanism in Section 1, and doesn't really tell you what that is, right? Well, what is anti-Americanism? Is it just disagreeing with a policy? Because certainly the exercise of free speech is not something that's criminalized under our Constitution. And I made a point that even if an organization actually supports overthrowing the United States government, that is not in and of itself illegal, right? It's still an exercise of free speech. Is covered by the First Amendment, and the Communist Party is a perfect example of that. And the Supreme Court has ruled that yes, an organization can have that in it, as its belief system, the support for the overthrow of the U.S. government. That still is covered by First Amendment, still covered by free speech. It talked about the directive talked about things like opposing capitalism and Christianity, and none of that is illegal, right? You can be opposed against those things. If one is staging a protest and one uses the word capitalism and one opposes capitalism, that's still covered by First Amendment. That still is an exercise of free speech. The directive also mentioned things like extremism on migration, race, and gender. Well, what does that even mean? I mean, how is that? Like, what does that mean? I mean, one can be certainly hostile towards those topics, but that doesn't make it criminal. One is hostile, right? That's still exercise of free speech. I mean, even and this is of course different when it comes to other countries. I mean, in the United States, one is even has a right to deny the Holocaust under free speech. That is not a crime. So the directive is interesting in that it mentions these items. It mentions violence, but then it mentions these items separately. And the danger, actually, the issue I have, of course, with the directive, probably the more controversial part, is that the Department of Justice in this directive is asking, like, the police, in each of our states, right, in each of our 50 states, to help the Department of Justice to create target lists for persecution. And so they're basically requesting data from our state to help them facilitate these efforts to conduct these arrests presumably of people that whose only fault would be to exercise their free speech rights. And therefore, as somebody who's running for governor, I have called for the Attorney General Platkin not to cooperate in turning over the data that is being asked for. I've also called for the nullification of this directive by the Attorney General Platkin in my response. So I made it very clear that this directive that was signed by the president should be null and void in the state of New Jersey, because it is a violation of the First Amendment, listing all those topics that clearly are all exercise of free speech. They're not criminal by themselves. Certainly any type of violence, that is something that is criminal. We already have laws against this, and there's absolutely no justification for criminalizing free speech, which is, again, is covered by the First Amendment and is completely constitutional. People do have a right to exercise free speech, and I hope that they will continue to exercise that right.
Yeah, and this is something that we've talked about in the past, that, when the government defines these terms and then criminalizes it, that's definitely something we should all be concerned over, even if it's something that you don't particularly support or do support. For example, being anti-Christian. Whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, it should be concerning to you, because if they can go after people who are against Christianity, then it can go after people who are for Christianity as soon as somebody else gets in office or is in charge of making these terms. And I don't hear the other two governor candidates talking about this, probably because most of the time Republicans and Democrats want to maintain the power that the federal government has and the power that your state government has, and that's why they don't fight against it. That's why they don't talk about it. It's the same thing with state surveillance. You don't hear Democrats and Republicans talking about this often. I'm not going to say all of them, because I have heard a few, but they don't talk about this often, or at least on a large scale, because they want those things, right? Recently, I had someone email me asking me about whether I supported removing the requirement to have front license plates, which might sound like a minor thing. And I guess on a grand scale, it is. But not only am I for getting rid of that for various reasons, but as far as things like flock safety cameras or traffic cameras, or I would even argue these toll road cameras, or invasion of privacy. And you don't realize how much data, especially with AI, how much data they're taking just from you going to the grocery store, especially with flock safety cameras. They're taking in an enormous amount of data, and it's your data and it's your information and it's your life that they're cataloging and your identity that they're cataloging, and it all plays into one another.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I agree. And this is definitely the certainly time when we've said this before, that you're absolutely right. The reason why you don't see kind of the candidates for governor talk about this is because, of course, they hope that when they're in power, let's say you're going to have the other party in power, they may very well use some of these provisions to kind of use them against the people they disagree with. And that's something that people who support these laws and support these provisions, then they don't quite think about that, right? I mean, they maybe in the back of their head, kind of like when someone says them, like, yeah, but that's going to be down the line, and who cares? It's going to happen in the future. The problem is, of course, is that, well, obviously there's a problem with this right now, but the problem also for them will be in the future, because they will be complaining about all the quote unquote unconstitutional ways that this directive is being used. But of course, they were the ones who were applauding this directive being used against people they don't like. So now when in the future, when this similar directive will be used against the people they do like, that's when they're going to be talking about violating the Constitution and free speech and all that. So, I mean, it's also, you definitely see a hypocrisy even happening right now, that the same people that say they're for free speech, of course, being very clear about opposing free speech for the people they don't agree with, when in that cases, or the people they defend, like those Kansas young Republicans, saying, well, they're just making jokes and they're trying to excuse their behavior. Meanwhile, saying they're for free speech when it comes to them, but not in favor of free speech when it comes to, well, people they don't agree with, as we see with this directive from the president.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just today I responded to somebody, I don't know, on some platform, I think it was Facebook. He had posted a picture of Charlie Kirk's empty podcast chair or whatever. And he said, I don't care about chats. Obviously referencing the leaked chats of, all those horrible things those people were saying. And it's like, well, you should care about it, because you claim to care about hate speech and free speech and political violence and all. Like, you claim to care about all these things, especially with Charlie Kirk's assassination. You claim to condemn political violence, but what do you think leads up to political violence? It's the dehumanization of entire groups of people. pointing the finger at the other side. Like I said before, I don't like using left versus right, but pointing your finger at the other side saying they're evil, they're demons, they're this, they're that. Well, you can't, once you're in power, you can't turn around and do the same thing. Just like during COVID between 2020 and 2023, you had a lot of Republicans and conservatives and just right-leaning people in general complaining that the media was lying and that they're bought, and they're all saying the same thing, and it's government propaganda. And I actually agreed with them in that time. I still do. But then as soon as who they supported gets into power, now they're saying that the Pentagon has to approve everything that the media posts. Well, then how's that not propaganda? How's that? You don't actually care about propaganda, government, state mandated propaganda. You don't care that the media is not truly independent, because as soon as your guy got into power, now you're doing the exact same thing.
Yep, exactly right. No, you're 100% right. I mean, even Fox News had an issue with this, but yeah, if you're a loyalist, if you're like supporting, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to support whatever's happening 100%. I don't even have to think about it. Yeah, I mean that basically means you just don't care about free speech, even when you claim you do, because obviously you don't believe in free speech for other people. You just believe in free speech for the people you agree with, but you don't think anyone else should have free speech while you say you are for free speech. So I mean, this is and again, this is, as you said, this is not kind of unique to any one side. People on any one side, people on both sides, they do it, right? They say they're for free speech, but they're only for free speech for people they agree with, but they're not for free speech for people they disagree with. They don't think they should have free speech. Only the people they agree with, only they should have free speech. So yeah, I mean, this is, and it is literally it does happen on both sides. And I think that because of the polarization, of course, extreme polarization, the people that actually believe that both sides are bad, right, or both sides are hypocritical, there's that number. That number is getting well, I don't know if that number is getting bigger, but I think there are people who are adamantly disagree with this idea, even though it's plainly obvious to us that there's hypocrisy on both sides. Even so, they still claim that no, the both parties are extremely different. Well, if that is so, if that's the case, why do we have higher national debt? Why would in the state of New Jersey we have increased cost of living? More people are leaving New Jersey, and this is under both parties. Like, how are the two parties so dramatically different that their policies are so similar, right? You just had the other day, right, President Trump. Now, if this was a Democratic president, we all know that the Republicans would be up in arms, right? Giving what is it, like $80 billion to the bailing out the the government of Argentina. 80 billion. This is during a government shutdown, right? So like, what kind of a it's like, what kind of an image does that create, that we don't have money for our own government? Apparently, well, of course we do. I mean, they argue, but the argument has been, right, from we know which people that saying, well, we can't afford it. We don't have, we can't take care of the rest of the world, right? Wasn't that the argument that was coming from the top, right? So we just can't take care of I mean, I heard a couple of months ago, we can't take care of other, we can't give aid to other countries. Well, apparently we can. When it comes to the ally of the U.S. federal government, we can give $80 billion. The sky's the limit, and more than $80 billion since the start of the year when it comes to other foreign governments. Apparently, that means America first. America first, according to those people, means giving as much money as humanly possible to foreign governments at the expense of taxpayers, while claiming that doing so is really taking care of the American people. I mean, to me, this is the height of hypocrisy coming from the people who claim that they're for America first.
Yes, absolutely. And we see this with other things too. And we talked about this a little bit last night about how people, their version of winning is basically getting revenge. And that's basically what Trump is doing. He's just going on this tirade of getting revenge on people he's been slighted, that have slighted him. And to me, winning would be, something that is truly liberty for everyone, something that follows along constitutionally protected rights, things that not only affect me personally, but affect other people in a positive way and giving them freedom. But for a lot of people, and unfortunately, this is the tribalistic nature of humans that we have to fight, we have to choose to fight against, is that what we actually consider to be winning is I got you back, right? And we also see that with people who claim to support the Constitution and the rights that it protects. Um, like when it comes to ICE and all the amendments that they're breaking and all the rights that they're breaking. That I just heard about an ICE raid at this guy's house. They knock on his door. He said, "Okay, hold on a second. My identification's in my truck." He closes the door, says, "Don't go inside." Closes the door, goes to his truck. They, kick the door down, kill his dog, and then it turns out he's an American citizen. Right? Like they broke so many laws and infringed on so many rights in a span of probably like 20 minutes, right? And we have people cheering that on. People who just 6 months ago claimed to support the Constitution, claimed to support constitutionally protected rights, and freedom and liberty, and are flying the Gadsden flag and all this stuff. And here they are cheering on the sidelines. So, I mean, we see this with so many things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And remember all those people that were cheering, like, oh, these people are getting deported to El Salvador. And then, of course, we found out how they were being treated in that prison. I mean, they were being tortured, beaten up, blood all over. I mean, we've gotten all those descriptions. I mean, they were treated like animals. Even animals don't get treated like that. And this was like the sort of a Abu Ghraib part two in terms of how those people were treated. And most of them were documented immigrants. They were not illegals, right? As those people call them. But they don't care. They don't care, right? These people come to this country legally. They get deported without due process and say, they say that those people don't deserve due process because they're illegal immigrants. Well, how do we know they're illegal immigrants? Well, apparently, most of them were not illegal. They were fully legal. And that's what they wanted. They wanted, we don't care, okay, just deport them out of this country. We don't care what happens to them. Where they were completely mistreated. And they wouldn't care if this was being done to American citizens because American citizens have been arrested too. American citizens have been detained, but they just don't care. Okay, they don't. And it's shameful that they say that, yes, I voted for this. You really voted for this? You voted for American citizens to be detained. You voted for American citizens to be arrested. You voted for American citizens to be held with no charges behind bars. And you were complaining about January 6th. You were complaining about that. And yet you have no problem. You have no problem with American citizens being arrested with no charges being filed against them and being held indefinitely in jail, in prison. You have no problem, okay? But I bet if this was to happen to you, then you would have a problem with that. You would have an issue with that if that were happen to you. How could people just be so, I can't even find the word to describe this.
Cognitive dissonance is the word that you're looking for, I think.
I mean, no, I don't care. It doesn't happen to me. What do I care, right? Just the level of hatred that they have in their hearts for people that don't look like them. Because we all know they're all white people coming from from Canada. There won't be all this sort of pumping up the fists and say, let's deport them all, right? Did I have an issue with all those people coming from South Africa, or the white refugees coming from South Africa? I don't see them complaining about it. They're complaining about it. They're not saying, oh, like, why are they coming to America? I don't see a single complaint about the white refugees coming from South Africa, saying they don't belong here and they should be deported. Okay, I haven't heard a single comment about that. Well, there's no surprise, of course.
Yeah, and speaking of January 6th, I do think that some of the arrests, without due process, there were some people that were sitting in federal prison for years without seeing a judge, which is absolutely wrong. I spoke out against it at the time, and I'm speaking out against it now. But the same people who are like, they shouldn't have been arrested, due process, all these things, are now cheering on the fact that the federal government has deemed Antifa and basically anyone who protests against ICE as Antifa, and they should be arrested. And I saw a video that was edited very disrespectfully of somebody who was protesting. I don't know the exact details. Maybe he assaulted someone. I don't know. But the point is that he was in handcuffs, lying prone on some sort of cart, and they were pulling him away, I guess, to be put into a car or van or whatever. You can't transport people prone like that. They can die. They can suffocate and die. There's a reason why ambulances, even when and I learned this when I was an EMT. There's a reason why we don't strap people down or put them prone in ambulances, even if they're fighting you, even if maybe they have mental issues or whatever, and are actively fighting you. You can't do that because they can suffocate and die. And here are people laughing at this. You know, okay, maybe the arrest was warranted and valid, but you can't transport people like that and treat them like you said, worse than we treat the animals we eat. I don't understand it.
No, I think no, thank you, Lana. I think it's very, very unfortunate. And by the way, this is why last year, I mean, when I heard that the plan was to quote unquote deport all, illegals as they were being called, I knew that this would lead to nightmare. I mean, it had to happen because there's no way that you can go after millions of people in this country and not along with them go after a whole bunch of citizens, a whole bunch of documented immigrants. I mean, this is what happened during the Mexican repatriation back in the 1930s and the 1940s. That's exactly what happened. A whole bunch of people that were actually Mexicans, that were American citizens, some of them born in the United States, were deported to Mexico. And deported, I mean, they were born in the United States. I'm talking about people born in the United States being sent over to Mexico. And so why am I surprised? If you have a goal of 3,000 arrests per day, of course they're going to go after people that look Latino. And of course the Supreme Court is going to say yes to that. Judges that were appointed by President Trump. I mean, that's not surprising at all. I mean, what else would one expect to happen? I mean, if you want to have a system where, the goal is to deport as many people as possible, right? Of course they're going to go after people that look Latino. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. What did people actually think that voted for Trump? They're just going to go only after undocumented immigrants and really believe that? Come on. I mean, this is of course, if you have money being awarded for every person, right, that they arrest, lots of money. Of course, they're going to try to get as many people as possible to fulfill the quota, whether they're citizens, whether they were born in the United States or not. It doesn't matter to them. I mean, so this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, this is exactly what happened in the if you know history, that's what happened in the 1930s and 1940s. They did go after a whole bunch of people who were U.S. citizens and born in the U.S. So.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how easy it is to have the feds knocking your door down. Everyone's heard of swatting. All it takes is one phone call, and you got SWAT at your front door. And it's the same thing with ICE. All it takes is one person saying, "Oh, there's a bunch of Latin people, Hispanic people living there. You should check them out." Or I have proof or whatever that this person's on. They don't need very much. And now they're breaking your door down. I don't think people realize how easy it is and how quickly it will happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely, Lana. And of course, you had the Justice Department now okaying that, saying that they can break down your door. If they're searching for people who are documented, they have every right to break down your door and do it. They just came out a few days ago.
No warrant, no identification. Like some of these ICE agents are just in street clothes. They just look like regular people, and they go on these train stations or whatever, subway stations, and just from an outsider's perspective, kidnap people, right? Because they're in street clothes with no identification, with sunglasses and baseball caps on, and they don't identify themselves, say why they're there. They have no warrant. They just literally kidnap people. Whether that person's undocumented or not, that's what it looks like, and it is what they're doing.
Exactly
And as far as when they do these raids of entire apartment complexes, everybody gets detained. Every single person, even if they're looking for one person, child, infant, pet person, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets detained. Everyone goes outside. Doesn't matter if you're clothed or not, if babies are in diapers or not. Everyone gets detained. And for what? One person that may or may not be there? That's insane to me.
No, I totally agree. And this is just this sounds so much like the Soviet Union under Stalin. These people that claim they're against socialism. I mean, whatever, communism, they hate communism. I mean, in the Soviet Union under Stalin, somebody could report that you were wiping your butt with a newspaper that had Stalin's picture on it, right, photograph on it, on a newspaper, in a newspaper. You're wiping your butt literally, and you would have agents come over to your house and arrest you just because someone reported that's what you were doing. This is exactly straight out of the freaking Soviet Union under Stalin. And I mean, the idea that we see this now in the United States, that the worst fear that people had, the Republicans, the worst feir they've ever had, is like, well, this would be the worst thing possible. This would mean the United States is done. That's it. They were saying that if there are government agents on the street asking you for your papers, that would be the worst thing possible that could happen to the United States. That would mean that the United States is a communist country. That's what they were saying. If we ever had government agents ask you on the street for your papers. Well, that's exactly what we have today. That's exactly what we have today. I mean, this is the Republicans. I don't even know what they believe in, because they don't seem to. I'm absolutely speechless. If somebody had told me like years ago that we would see this happen in the United States, there would be government agents asking people on the street for their papers. And now people are afraid. People live in Chicago are afraid. There was a Latina woman who's saying, I never thought that I would have to carry with me my passport, my birth certificate, because I could be stopped and apprehended just for being a Latina woman. I mean, this is insane. How do we ever get to this place? This is, I mean,
Yeah, and there's so many people now, and even in the last couple of years, that I would talk to, and they would say, "Oh, that will never happen here. I can't even imagine that happen here." Or, in America we have freedom, or we have the Constitution. It can happen faster than you would ever imagine. In fact, it is happening very fast. I also think this is a consequence of people truly being uneducated. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I don't mean that they're stupid or low IQ. I just mean that they're truly uneducated about these historical events and how they come about, and what communism actually means, what fascism actually means, what national socialism actually. If you don't really understand what these philosophical terms mean, even their basic definition that you can just look up on Google, if you don't even know that, you will not recognize it when it's in front of your face. And I've said this for years, that you have a lot of conservatives and Republicans and MAGA, um, that, oh, I hate communism. You're a socialist. You're calling me a socialist and a communist. And I can tell they don't know what that means. They don't actually know what a a socialist economy looks like, what a socialist regime looks like, because here we are, we're here. This is what a socialist regime looks like. This is what a socialist economy looks like. Closed borders and tariffs and protectionist policies. America first in general, just the idea behind it is socialist in nature. And so I do think it comes down to a lack of understanding of what these things actually are and what they look like in real life, instead of just this, from some people's perspective, this fantastical event that happened on the other side of the world. No, we're here.
No, Lana, I totally agree with you. I don't think they understand it. And now I have to go back to the 1930s. I mean, the 1980s. In the Soviet Union, the government would be doing the same thing. 1982 to 1984, no pun intended, under the leadership of Yuri Andropov, that's what you had. You had government agent, the NKVD, right? The NKVD. I'm sorry, the KGB. It was NKVD under Stalin, but the KGB would stop people on the street. Yes, and they would ask for their papers. And they would ask people this, again, like 1980, 1983, 1984, if like, how come you're not at work? Why you're not at work? Like, we're, it's like they would. What are you doing outside? They would ask people for their papers. The idea that at the same time, right, you had in the 1980s, Reagan Republicans, when Reagan was president, was saying, would probably point to that and say how horrible it is. I'm sure they did. The idea that the Republicans would, a few generations later, would be cheerleading this, government agents asking people on the street their papers, is just, it's like, if somebody had told me that this years ago, I would have thought this was like straight out of, I would have thought that this would be possible, because I think that, looking at history, unfortunately, we have gone through some seriously terrible times, and some horrible times have repeated themselves. Unfortunately, we're not moving in one direction. But this would have absolutely horrified people if you had told the Republicans back during that time that one day you'll have a Republican president and this is what will be going on. They probably would not have believed it. They probably would have said that this is some kind of science fiction and this could not possibly be happening. But it is happening, and I think people that are cheerleading, as you're right, Lana, they don't even understand like the science, right? As they say, well, we hate communism, right? And yet this is happening. They're cheerleading this, and they don't quite understand what it is. If even some of the things like I remember when President Obama was president, so government taking ownership of the stocks and companies, Republicans were saying that this was communism. This is terrible. When the president does, it's horrible. This should never, ever happen, right? And then they're cheerleading when this is being done right now. The same thing is being done right now. They're absolutely 100% for it. And they say this is capitalism. Wait, what? No. This is they're like, no, this is actual capitalism. Like, okay. Yeah. Crony capitalism, maybe. This is not free enterprise. You want to say this is crony capitalism? Yes, I agree. It is crony capitalism. But that's not what they mean by that. And it's absolutely taking the language and twisting it and turning it upside down. And I'm absolutely horrified the direction where we're going. And it seems like we're going at a very high speed towards a place where, I'm sure none of us, Lana and I, none of us want to end up with, because it's happening way, very fast. And it's just shocking to see this is happening so fast, moving so fast in this one direction. It's almost like someone decided to, put on a speed dial. And again, none of this was surprising. Last year, we've heard those statements that there should be no limits on the presidential power. Anything the president wants to do, he should be able to do it. It doesn't matter what he does. We don't care, right? Let's get him in, and then whatever happens. Doesn't matter what happens. And now we see this, right? Now we see this happening. So exactly what was to be expected, right? So, I think for the most part, we're getting exactly what was expected to happen based on campaign promises, based on those speeches from last year. So, it's just tragic that we are where we are today. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yes, and just to add on, and then we'll kind of go into a different topic. We also had a lot of people who got involved in politics in general, during COVID, because they didn't support vaccine mandates, they didn't support vaccine passports. I certainly didn't. I spoke out at the time that people have bodily autonomy, and the state can't tell you to get a vaccine if you don't want one. Businesses can make whatever policies they want, but it can't come from the state. And the idea that if you're sitting out, in a cafe, and a cop comes up to you asking for a vaccine passport is absolutely absurd. And people were comparing it to, the National Socialists of the 1930s and 40s, and they're correct to make that parallel. Right. I remember when I was in Edison at the time during COVID, and there was a curfew. And I broke the curfew multiple times because I don't care. Like, how are you going to tell me, a grown person, when I have to be in my home, and what magically COVID is like, out in the night after 8 p.m.? That doesn't make any sense. And cops would stop me. What are you doing? Why aren't you home? Do you have a pass? I didn't get in trouble because I guess luckily the cops I interacted with kind of saw the absurdity of it. My point is that those same people are now not making the same parallels. Right. I also want to kind of point out that the quality of people that they're recruiting for ICE to be agents, to be on the ground agents, maybe not higher ups, maybe not leadership, although I question their intelligence as well to some degree, and also their morals and values. But, we're noticing that a certain type of person is volunteering to become an ICE agent. And I know libertarians have been talking about this. Well, people in general who are kind of questioning the justice system and police in general, that there are certain personalities that are statistically drawn to positions of kind of ultimate power, especially behind a firearm, like police, military, etc. And the same thing is happening with ICE agents. And I think it's important that we kind of acknowledge that these people are power hungry, and they tend to be kind of skeevy. I sent you an article earlier of an ICE agent who was transporting a detainee over a flight, and he was caught taking a video of a flight attendant, or trying to. I don't know if he was successful. I don't remember in the article. I think he was successful. Of course, it's not public information like the actual video or pictures of, up her skirt. And okay, I hear a lot of people say, well, it's just one individual doing one bad thing. Well, first of all, that one bad thing is horrible, and he was doing it while on duty, while transporting a detainee. But we hear stories like this all the time of people in power who have a firearm on their hip, a federal agent, who is doing something like this. That story, of course, he was found guilty. I'm a little annoyed of what he was found guilty of, because there's a lot of when it comes to taking pictures of people in public, there's a lot of distinction between what expectation of privacy you have in public versus private, and voyeurism in general is only illegal if you're taking videos or pictures of somebody in a place where privacy is expected, like their home, a bathroom, something like that. But because she was a flight attendant on a flight, there really is no expectation for privacy. But he was found guilty of interfering with the duties of flight attendant, or however that's worded, which is annoying because I wish he was guilty of what he actually did. But they might have done that purposefully because now he's guilty of a federal crime, which is a harsher sentence. But it is a little annoying that what he was found guilty of instead of like potentially sexual assault, which I consider those things to be sexual assault. But his defense was because he did it so sneaky, because he wasn't trying to interfere, then he wasn't interfering. But, this is a flight attendant, unarmed, trying to do her job, and this is a federal agent with a firearm in his hip on duty. Of course it's intimidating. Of course it's coercive. Of course he's interfering with her flight attendant duties or whatever. So I do think that this recruitment campaign that the federal government is doing with recruiting ICE agents are recruiting kind of like the bottom rung of society, if I can say that.
No, you're absolutely right, and we know the type of people that certainly, yeah. I mean, the people that you can definitely see that there's some people that might actually enjoy having that power over another person. I could definitely see that somebody who they paid them $50,000 right from the start. So here we go. Here's $50K, and so there's definitely that financial kind of reward, huge financial reward, right? $50,000 right from the beginning. You get 50,000, take 50 grand. But I think it's also right. So the people that actually enjoy doing this, they get rewarded for you like sort of a. Using power against another person, so you can feel powerful, and I'm sure there are people who are getting a kick out of it. I don't know if I'm pretty sure these people are not checked for like psychological evaluation. I mean, they're not. They're not meant to be police officers, right? So whether it's if you look at, for example, like historically, the type of people that would be placed in some of the Soviet prisons, there's a certain typical kind of a personality that is more likely to be would be employed in the prison. I mean, anyone that would in terms of the Soviet prisons back in the 1930s that would enjoy torturing people, right? It takes a specific type of a person. I mean, most people probably would not enjoy beating the heck out of another person and getting a high from that. That's not normal for most people. But obviously, the people who would work there, yes, there would be those people who would be attracted to those types of jobs. So I definitely can see that, in terms of ICE, that there would be a certain category of people that would be attracted to those types of, positions, and that may not be, being there because of, they just want to, quote unquote, serve the country or whatever other official reasons that they try to come up with at the top. So no, I definitely agree with you there, Lana.
Yeah, and just like we see recruitment campaign videos for the military basically romanticizing and glorifying war and bombs and all this stuff, of course is going to attract people who want to be in that and want to be involved in that. And I have seen videos posted by the official accounts for ICE of people essentially being assaulted by federal agents, and it's edited in such a way to make it look funny. And that's their recruitment campaign. Of course, you're going to recruit people who just want to have the power to assault people. And the situation with this flight attendant, is not the first example. I have seen videos of ICE agents just directly shooting pepper balls at people's face. I've seen protesters who were just being loud and disruptive, which is the point of a protest, being sprayed with pepper spray directly in the face, or in the case of those inflatable costume things, get sprayed in that fan thing. Like, there's no reason to do that. These ICE agents, just generally speaking, have no discipline. And they also clearly don't have an understanding of what rights people have. So they're recruiting people that just want to be violent. I've also seen videos of agents being incredibly violent with women unnecessarily, even if they're not their detainee and they're just upset. Like that woman who was upset that her husband was being taken away by ICE, and she was just kind of pleading with the guy, and he just shoves her against the wall, and she ends up on the floor. And they took stills of that video and endlessly made fun of her, and people were just laughing. They thought it was hilarious. It's hilarious to you that a federal agent who has been given basically unlimited power, the right to infringe on your constitutionally protected rights, the right to break down your door without a warrant, the right to shoot your dog without any sort of accountability, the right to take and kidnap people and put babies and toddlers into, and detain them. You want those people to enjoy doing those things? That's crazy to me. I don't know why people are not, when I say people, I mean the people who are supportive of these policies and of ICE, why they're not demanding a higher caliber of ICE agent. I'm not even talking to the people who agree with us that ICE is unconstitutional and, borders shouldn't be closed, but I'm talking to the people who support ICE. Why aren't you demanding a higher caliber of agent?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question, and I think I have the answer to that, because for years, the people who are undocumented have been dehumanized. We've been told they're murderers, they're rapists, they're all violent criminals. And so why would all those people say that they support it? Why would they want a higher quality of ICE agents? As far as they're concerned, they don't have any rights, and they shouldn't have any rights. They shouldn't be in this country. And, of course, if they're all murderers and rapists and, violent criminals, then why shouldn't they be dealt with harshly? So I'm not surprised, actually, that this is happening. It all started with the dehumanization of people based on their immigration status. And now, of course, people say that I support this. I voted for this. This is good. I mean, you had a congressional candidate in Chicago, right? There was, weeks ago, a month ago, right? She was just sitting there, right? Minding her own business, right? She's sitting. The agent grabs her by her neck, right? Picks her up and throws her, into the ground, just like that. Just slams her into the ground, picks her up, and just throws her into the ground. I mean, we've seen that video. I mean, who acts like this? And there are people say, yes, that they support this. She was later on the News Nation, right, the interview, and the guy, the host, he was defending this. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? This is exact. I mean, it is unnerving. I'm not surprised that this is happening, but it all started with the dehumanization. I honestly think there should have been more of a pushback right from the beginning, right? Yeah, there were people that they say they didn't like it. There should have been more of a pushback, because millions of people have become convinced that everyone who's getting arrested because they're undocumented, they're murderers and rapists. So, of course, if that's what they are, then why is it not okay to treat them this way, right? I mean, I think this is where they're coming from. So.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And to add to that, I think that there's also this idea that if something is illegal, it is automatically immoral and automatically deserves harsh punishment. And you hear this all the time when we talk about marijuana being illegal. Well, why did he go to prison for 10 years? Well, he had marijuana. Don't do marijuana. Don't have it on your person. Okay, but think about it. Should this be illegal? You know what I mean? And I put this on, I think, my personal Facebook, that if you look up overstaying your visa, whether it's a work visa or student visa or whatever, if you overstay your visa, yes, you can get kicked out, and then you're not able to come back to the United States for 10 years. But technically, it's not even like a crime. It's you forgot to fill out paperwork. It's the equivalent of not registering your car. And
Yeah,
so we're
it's a
saying that
civilian offense. Civilian
it's a what?
offense. It's a
Yes,
civilian offense. It's not a criminal offense.
right. It's a civil offense. So we're cheering on people who didn't fill out the right paperwork. We're cheering on them being violently assaulted and put into these detention centers that people are disappearing in. We haven't even talked about that. This whole time we do live streams talking about ICE. Where are these people that disappear in the detention centers? Where are they? And why aren't we demanding answers? Like, why aren't people who are elected officials demanding even their names? We don't even have their names. We just know that they're missing. You know, it's getting really scary because we were promised that American citizens wouldn't be affected by this. If you're an American citizen, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Everyone who's not an American citizen is probably here to do crime. So this is good for you. And now look, you know.
Yeah, and that's what we're told, and I never believed that would happen just because they, if they said, well, the goal is to deport every single one of them. Yeah, and people are like, yeah, we voted for Trump, voted for this. What did you guys vote for? You voted to go after American citizens. You voted to go after people who were born in this country. That's what you voted for. Because the only way you could do that, as you're saying, well, first of all, you can't do that without like destroying our economy, and we talked about this before. But the only way you could do it if you go after American citizens, you go after against people who were born in this country, if you go after against the American people. And I think they never understood that because they don't understand how this could possibly work, right? If the goal is, I said this before, to deport as many people as possible, of course, just for all that money, for every person they get to arrest, they're going to go after people who are born in this country. They're not going to care because they're going to be looking for that financial reward. And that's exactly what's happened. This was completely to be expected. And so this is not surprising at all. So if some people did not understand that, they did not get that, well, they should have thought more about this because this was pretty obvious. You couldn't want to have all the undocumented immigrants deported and number one, not hurt the U.S. economy. Number one, that's obvious, right? You remove all those people who are working from our economy, right? But then also, that means also going after the American citizens, and that's exactly what's been happening. So, and there've been even previous, decade, there were American citizens that were deported. We don't know how the heck that happened, right? But it just happened. They deported American citizens. Now, so I mean, this was completely to be expected. I don't know anyone thought that you could, I think people are, and it's really funny too, right? Because not funny, but they make fun of people. They say, we make fun of people on the left. How about somebody making fun of you? Because what you were thinking just made no sense whatsoever, right? Taking like millions of people, getting rid of them, deporting them out of the country, and somehow this would not affect U.S. economy, right? All those millions of people that work. You don't think this, and you don't think this would actually also include people who are born in this country? You never thought about that? Like you don't know? You never. I mean, this is just like, oh no, they would. Every single person they would arrest is going to be an undocumented immigrant. They're not going to arrest anyone. Come on, like it's just this is. I mean, I don't know. I think that there are people on both sides, individuals on both sides, who are basically living in a la la land. Okay. And that was just clear from some of the things they were saying, because if they thought for 1 second this would not impact American citizens, people born in the United States, I mean, then I don't think they were thinking too deeply about this.
Sorry, I'm on my phone and I just grabbed my phone. Yeah, I agree with you, and I also think that for a lot of people, it was never about actually finding undocumented immigrants. The goalposts keep moving. I hear in person, this is not just like an internet thing. In person, I hear people say, if you're not an American, you shouldn't be here. And I say, okay, well, define American. And a lot of them will say, well, born here. Okay, I wasn't born here. Neither were you, Vic. A lot of us weren't actually born here. I was born an American citizen, but I wasn't born here, right? So their qualifications for who is an American and who isn't is incredibly arbitrary and a lot of times racist. Meanwhile, Lady Liberty is weeping, right? Because the whole point of this country was to be a home for the people who are being persecuted, whether religious or otherwise. And look what we've become.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And this, I mean, and this is also crazy what they're saying, because that means their ancestors were not Americans either, right? It's like, yeah, well, if your ancestors were not Americans, then you would not have been born. What the heck you're complaining about, right? About these people who are not Americans, when your ancestors have come from somewhere else, and if they had not come to the United States, you would not have even been born. So what the heck are you talking about, right? I mean, these people, they make no sense whatsoever. They think that if somebody was not born in the United States, that person is not an American. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. Their ancestors were not born in the U.S. either. The only people who are native to this land are Native Americans. That's it. And people just so short-sighted, they can't even. It's like they're unable to have any type of critical thinking, which is, I mean, this, it's also crazy too, because like in our state of New Jersey, quarter of the population are immigrants. So I mean, that's just, it's really dumb to be anti-immigrant in New Jersey, in my opinion. I mean, you're talking about the quarter of the population of our state.
Yes. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, so we're gonna wrap it up here. We do have quite a few viewers. Please leave your comments or leave your questions or statements or whatever in the comments, or you can email us. We'll answer it the next time we go live. We were planning on going live tomorrow, but Vic has an event tomorrow, so we're not going to go live tomorrow. So the next time will be probably next Wednesday, 6:30. Schedule pending, but definitely next Thursday, 6:30. So please send us your questions or topics that you want us to discuss. If you're in New Jersey and you want to support somebody who is for liberty, please vote Vic Kaplan in November. If you are in District 24, which is basically Sussex County and Warren County, a little bit of Morris, vote Lana Leguía, which is me. And if you don't live in New Jersey, there are ways that you can support us and support the New Jersey Libertarian Party. You can become a member and just support us financially and get our emails and our newsletters and things like that and support us that way. Also, follow the party, follow both Vic and I on social media and like our posts and kind of boost the algorithm in that way. That always helps. You can also donate to our campaigns, even if it's $5. There are lots of ways that people who don't live in New Jersey or in our districts or the districts for the different candidates can help if you want to elevate our message and our mission. So last words, Vic, and then we'll end it.
Right. Yeah. Last words. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lana, for that. So yes, definitely check out our websites. Running for governor, VicNumber4Liberty.com, Lana Leguía, LanaLeguía.com at the bottom of the screen, and Dustin Maggard for assembly, DustinNumber4Liberty.com at the bottom of the screen. Please feel free to donate, volunteer. If you're in New Jersey, this tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, I'll be in different locations. I'll be in Morris County on Friday, tomorrow evening, right in Boonton. Then the next day I'm going to be in Clifton and Fair Lawn. On Saturday, and on Sunday I'm going to be in Baskin Ridge. It's all on my website, so please feel free to join me in those events. I'll be love to talk to you, answer any of the questions you may have, and like to volunteer. I'd also love to talk to you as well. And you can again do so through my website and VicForLiberty.com. So thank you again so much. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, everyone. See you next Wednesday, 6:30. Good night.
Good night.